Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our ongoing series on the subject of fasting. You know, one of the things that's kind of caught my attention going through these readings on fasting is how the author has categorized it as a core practice of the grounded life, right up there with Bible study and prayer, and has kind of triggered the question in my mind, what practices do we consider core and what are non-core? I think as a young Christian, I would have probably been taught something like this, that the primary or core means of grace, ways of keeping connected in my relationship with God, was Bible study, prayer, service, and fellowship. And yet today we've seen this proliferation of, I've got one book that's got 66 spiritual practices in it. But when you look closer, you realize that basically what they're doing is parsing Bible study and coming up with a whole lot of subtopics under Bible study, like Bible memorization or Bible meditation or Lectio Divina. And under prayer, you've got everything from breath prayers, which never really caught on with me, to prayer walks, which really did catch on with me, to fixed hour prayer, which is praying at every 3-hour intervals. Now, you don't see that term in Scripture, fixed hour prayer. But what you do see is that concept. The psalmist talked about 7 times a day I will praise you. And during the Middle Ages, they used that verse to kind of create the daily office, which was a means of, praying at 3-hour intervals, lauds, vespers, fancy Latin names to kind of remember them. And you might say, too, it's an application of the principle in the New Testament, pray without ceasing. So, what about those other ones that fall outside those categories of subdivisions of Bible study and prayer? Things like, solitude, silence, journaling, hospitality, examine, and so forth. That it raises certain questions. I think particularly of slowing. Okay, have you ever heard of that one? Slowing. And you never see slowing in the Bible taught explicitly as a spiritual practice. What you see rather is and you've heard this from preachers for forever, Jesus was never in a hurry. And so they'll suggest that you let people cut in front of you at the grocery line, or that you slow down by 15 miles an hour as you're driving. Well, it began to dawn on me that these were simply applications of Scripture that were totally valid, but it really helped you get a bigger feel for different ways that we can stay connected with God. For instance, as we're slowing, the idea is that we tend to be a little bit more attentive to that communion with God. Now, it also made me ask the question, so is fasting a core discipline? And I've come to the conclusion that it is. And this is the reason, or this is one reason. When Jesus talks about fasting, he says in Matthew chapter 6, when you pray, when you give alms, when you fast. Notice he didn't say if you pray, or if you give alms, or if you fast. He said when you do it. So it seems to be, in Jesus's mind, a core practice. Now, here's a little exercise I want to give to you today, because as I go through the Bible, I see fasting explicitly taught, I see it pervasively taught, and so I'm going to encourage you to go through a list that we're going to put up that you can download, and it's kind of a one-page Bible study, and it lists like 8 different people or groups in the Bible that fasted, and how long they did it. So you'll see, Moses fasted for 40 days, the children of Israel for 3 days, and so on. And then it gives you a couple verses, and I'm going to encourage you to go to the verses and look them up, 15, 20 minutes probably to do it. And then, we've answered the who question and the how long question. You answer the why question. Why were they fasting, and what did you learn that you didn't know about fasting? You might not find an answer for every one of them, but I think the exercise will simply help you to understand just how core fasting is. And then we're going to come back tomorrow and see the difference that it can make and why it is so critically important in our particular culture today. Have a great day.